For many years in Europe and America, there was a tradition of white singers and entertainers painting their faces black to make themselves into caricatures of Africans. You might think that in the 21st century there'd no longer be an appetite for such unpleasant and offensive nonsense, but you'd be wrong. The most successful and widely publicised example of what is now known as blackface took place at the Natural History Museum in London in 2018. Newspapers all around the world would report it enthusiastically, and far more people saw this particular exhibition than ever saw Al Jolson in The Jazz Singer. What is even stranger is that a huge number of black people applauded this particular display of blackface, for reasons we shall now look at. First though, here's what everybody was so excited about. 2 years ago, a European face painted black to entertain and amuse the public, the very essence of blackface. What had happened was that the Natural History Museum and Channel 4, a British television station, had been working together to present a new idea about what people who lived in Britain looked like 10,000 years ago. They had taken DNA from a very old skeleton called Cheddar Man, due to the location where it was found, and contacted all the newspapers to announce that the first people living in Britain had actually been black. That was one in the eye for the racists, and no mistake. Black people lived here first before white people arrived. It was all, of course, nonsense, as we later learned, but at the time it was created a sensation. Some of you might remember when this happened, February 2018. You won't remember what happened next though, because newspaper and television channels didn't report it. A week after all the fuss about the supposed discovery, New Scientist magazine published a retraction. Some of the people that had worked on the original DNA testing of the skeleton were horrified to see that the Natural History Museum had actually painted the recreated face of Cheddar Man black. They said that it was not possible to say what colour his skin was, not just from their DNA sample, which was very old and degraded anyway. There's a link to the report that they produced in the description of this video so viewers can read it for themselves. There's a link. If you have a look at the link there, you'll be able to see the original DNA profile that was drawn up from the Cheddar Man. Other experts in the field were swift to point out that it was simply impossible to say what colour the skin of any prehistoric person was. The research used by the Natural History Museum had relied on sampling only 16 genes, and many more than that are used to determine the pigmentation of anybody's skin. In short, a week after the whole thing was called the first Black Britain, the story had fallen apart. Even the people who had carried out the DNA tests admitted that they had no idea what colour his skin had been. And still, nobody in the newspapers or any of those television channels that had reported the original recreation bothered to take any notice at all. They didn't tell people that the story had been nonsense. The only magazine that really reported it was New Scientist and one or two other journals, which nobody reads anyway. All of this reminds me strongly of the Piltdown man hoax. In 1912 it was claimed that a new species of prehistoric man, a missing link between men and apes, had been found in Britain, and the bones went on display in the Natural History Museum, of course. What had actually happened was that someone had got together a piece of an old human skull and joined it up with an orangutan jawbone, and they'd stained the things to make them look old. The Piltdown hoax is similar to Cheddar Man in many ways. I'm not going to speculate on the motives either of those who coloured orangutan jawbones and tried to pass them off as an ancient human, nor of those who chose to paint a European face black and then telephone reporters and urge them to come and see the new discovery. The real mystery is why, when it became clear that the whole thing was a ridiculous fairy tale, those same news outlets did not want to report it. Now that is strange. Incidentally, those that want to check all this might try googling Cheddar Man and then New Scientist, and they'll see the reports of the retraction.